All right, so today we're going to break down this really powerful framework for resilience. It all boils down to one simple but huge question. How do you actually find the strength to stand firm when life is doing its best to knock you right over?
I mean, we've all been there, right? That moment you hit rock bottom and looking up just feels impossible. You start wondering, is this it? Am I stuck down here for good? Well, this is for anyone who's ever felt that way.
So, this whole framework we're digging into, it's all built around this one powerful idea: stand firm. And the key thing to get is that it's not about never falling, it's about building a foundation that's so solid that even when you do fall, nothing can really truly break you.
I just love this metaphor. Picture a martial artist, how they plant their feet and create this super stable, grounded stance. That's the image here. It's about an intentional posture for life. It's not about being rigid or stiff, it's about having a low center of gravity so that if you do get knocked down, you can pop right back up.
Okay, so that sounds good in theory, but how does it actually play out in the real world? Well, the source material for this points to a pretty surprising case study. A king whose life, honestly, looks a lot more like a masterclass in failure than in resilience.
Let's see if you can guess who this is. I'm going to describe a really famous historical leader. Just listen to this resume.
Okay, first off, he was a murderer, then an adulterer. He was a father who basically just watched as his family fell apart into total chaos. And finally, he was a leader whose ego trip led directly to the deaths of 70,000 of his own people. We're not talking about a minor slip-up here. This is a pattern of absolute catastrophic failure. Any ideas?
King David? Yeah, that King David. The same guy who's called Israel's greatest hero. The guy the Bible literally describes as a man after God's own heart. So, how in the world can both of these things possibly be true?
This is the paradox at the very heart of his story. I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got just disaster. On the other, you have the highest praise you can imagine. And the whole point here is that his failures were real, they were huge, and they mattered. But his story, ultimately, is about something else entirely.
This is what it sounded like when David hit his absolute rock bottom. It's a cry of just complete hopelessness. And if those words sound familiar, it's because Jesus himself actually quoted them from the cross. That's the depth of despair we're talking about, which makes his recovery all the more incredible.
And this right here, this is the secret sauce. David's legacy isn't defined by how he fell. It's defined by his stubborn, relentless ability to get back up every single time. He just refused to let failure be the end of his story. That is the secret to standing firm.
So, okay, how did he do it? It's not magic, right? Well, this framework breaks his resilience down into 3 really practical, actionable pillars. This is the how-to guide for how we can learn to get back up too. The first pillar is the foundation for everything else. You have to have hope. Even at your lowest point. No, especially at your lowest point, there's always hope. It's the thing that lets you see a future that exists beyond your current mess.
Think about it like this. An anchor doesn't stop the storm, right? The waves are still crashing, the wind is still howling. But what it does do is keep the ship from getting totally smashed against the rocks. Hope is that anchor for your soul. It holds you in place when everything else is pure chaos.
This one quote just captures the whole idea so perfectly. The depth of your fall will never exceed the depth of His grace. What that means is, it doesn't matter how far you've fallen, you have not fallen out of reach. If someone like David could be restored, then nobody is a lost cause.
All right, pillar number 2. This one is a game changer, but it takes a real shift in how you think. We are all wired to stare at the storm, to fixate on the problem in front of us. This principle says, stop staring at the waves. Look around and see who is in the boat with you.
This means we have to start asking a different question. Our instinct is to ask, when is this going to be over? But a much better question is, am I aware of the presence of my strength that's right here in the storm with me? Because the miracle isn't always the storm stopping. Sometimes the miracle is just realizing you're not alone in the boat.
This metaphor just nails it. We spend so much energy chasing outcomes. The solution to a problem, a specific blessing, those are the butterflies. The advice here is to stop chasing. Instead, tend your garden. Focus on your spiritual foundation, on getting healthy. When the garden is healthy, you don't have to chase the butterflies. They just come.
So, how exactly do you tend that garden? Well, that brings us right to pillar number 3. You need a consistent practice that connects you to that source of strength. The sermon calls it prayer, but you can think of it as any intentional, grounding discipline that works for you.
And here's a really crucial distinction. The point of this practice isn't to change God's mind or to somehow manipulate your circumstances to get what you want. The number one thing this practice is designed to change is us. It slowly aligns our will with the divine one, and that's what builds our resilience, our peace, our stability, no matter what storm is raging.
So there we have it, our three pillars: hope, presence, and practice. And here's where it all comes together in this simple, really memorable formula that you can just take with you.
12. 12. What's that? A time? Some kind of secret code? Well, it's actually a reference, a kind of powerful shorthand for the entire framework we've just been talking about.
There it is, Romans 12:12. This one single verse is the entire framework in a nutshell. It's the practical, boots-on-the-ground application of everything we've covered, a three-step guide to standing firm.
Let's just break it down real quick. Be joyful in hope, bam, that's pillar 1, holding on to that anchor. Be patient in affliction, yep, that's pillar 2, focusing on the presence in the storm, not just waiting for it to end. And be faithful in prayer, or practice. Well, there you go, pillar 3, tending the garden. It's all right there, perfect.
And so, we end by turning this all back to you. Because look, we all fall. It's just part of being human. The question isn't if you'll fall. The real question is, when you do, what are you going to hold on to? What's going to be the anchor for your soul that lets you stand firm?